ustedes. we're going to get started here in just a minute, but if we're going to hear two bills today. Chairman Lumsden is going to present both of them. The first bill we'll hear is House Bill 222. We've got a sign-up sheet if anybody would like to speak about two or four or again, either one you want to do, 221 or 222. So, and we'll base it on how many we got to sign up and how much time we got, and then at that time I'll tell you how long you have to speak. We're going to give it about a minute here, and Chairman Lumsden's going to make his way over to the podium, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Somehow we get we got 3 or 4. I got 3 meetings scheduled right now that I'm on the committee, and that's what's happening to us, and we've got to get past some of these organizational meetings, and maybe we can do a better job. Okay, again, we welcome you, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to open the word of prayer, and if you'll bow with me. Lord, we thank you for the blessings of life that you've given us. And we pray, Lord, as we enter into the business of the state of Georgia, that we would look to you for guidance. You would lead us to do what's best for our state and our people. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. Chairman Lumsden. Make sure our LC number is correct. I believe there's just one on both of them, and we'll present the House Bill 222. And again, if anyone would like to sign up to speak, the sheet is available. Chairman Lumsden.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring to you House Bill 222. We're working from LC 520208. This is a department bill, comes as a request from the Insurance Commissioner's Office. It's a cleanup bill. It simply clarifies some language in the current law. Has 4 sections that it deals with. The first part makes it clear that they only regulate service contracts that are sold to consumers, not third parties. This is just a clarification of the existing language. Does not change how they are doing their business. It simply clarifies the language to make it clear that they're only dealing with consumers. The second portion of the bill allows the Office of the Insurance Commissioner to extend probationary license for up to 24 months. It currently is 12 months, and right now they have to do 2 12-month issuances. This just permits them to cut back on the paperwork that's involved in doing that. Also, the next section allows the commissioner to let applicants reapply between 1 and 5 years after their license have been refused. Right now, they have to wait 5 years, and the rationale behind that is simply that some license refusals and revocations are less serious than others. So this gives the commissioner some more discretion, and the last provision simply gets rid of a reference to a code section that doesn't exist, and it just makes the language requirements read more clearly. So that's what the bill does. It's a cleanup bill. It comes as a request from the Insurance Commissioner's Office, and that's I present that to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have any comments or questions for the presenter from the committee? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Have a second by Deloach. All in favor of recommending do pass, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Do pass to full committee.
Our second bill is also a request from the insurance department. This is House Bill 221 LC 520207. This bill makes a slight change which may create some conversations to come, but currently this deals with a file and use procedure that is used by the Insurance Commissioner's Office. File and use has been in place for some 15 years now, I guess. It permits an insurance company to file their rates and start using those rates immediately. And this is true for all rates except for the state mandated minimum. The Insurance Commissioner has the right to review the state mandated minimums for all companies. When this was first implemented, all of the companies carried state mandated minimums. Since that time, some companies have created some minimums other than the state mandated minimum, and as a result, the Insurance Commissioner does not have the right to review those as he does with the state mandated minimum. So the request here, the language change that you see, just reflects that whatever the base rate of that company is, even if it's not the state mandated minimum, that the Commissioner would have the right to review that before it being implemented. And that's the gist of the bill.
When we're talking about the liability side of,
We're talking property casualty, the liability includes property
automobile.
casualty and bodily injury.
that's where we have a state minimum of 25, 50, 25.
Correct, yes.
Okay, if over the years as we fully appreciate the commissioner, and I bragged on him so much he's probably got the big head. Right before he retires, I have to quit calling him general. I guess that may be forever. And we do things sometimes that come back and have unintended consequences, and I just want to make sure. This is, if somebody when you explain to me, or you go up and help, what are we talking about when we say this company's got a minimum? What if you don't? It's when they come up. If you don't mind, if
we have the Commissioner as well as Weston Burleson and some other folks with us today, so I will be glad to let them answer the particulars of the details.
Yeah, my question is, it is an insurance company, an insurance department bill, right?
Correct. It
okay.
is.
My question is, when we say they changed they have to like we have, and I may be off base here. We have file and use.
Right.
And so if their minimum is 100, 200, 100, that's their minimum. So they have to. That's when they would have to, on that rate,
Right.
What they were selling there.
Just that rate, because
they would have to file.
They would have to file based on whatever their base rate, whatever their base offering is.
Mm-hmm.
They would have to file that rate change with the Insurance Commissioner's Office, and they would have the right to review it. And
okay, is this a problem that people are changing up and down, or what's the problem we're trying to get solved? And so I know what we're really trying to do, and I apologize, I'm not.
Well, some companies have chosen to have a base offering other than the state mandated minimum. The current law addresses the state mandated minimum. The request is by the Insurance Commissioner's Office that whatever the company's minimum offering is, that they have the right to review that.
So if a company had a 25, 50, 25, and they changed it to 50, 100, 50, they'd have to file? If that's what they were offering, if that was the lowest they were offering?
Correct. Whatever their base rate offering is would be subject to review by the insurance.
And that is to give them the right to review, or a right to, tell me again.
The Insurance Commissioner has the right to review the state mandated minimums,
right,
and approve, disapprove, negotiate, change up in some way. So he currently has that authority for the state mandated minimum, 25, 50, 25. But if you have a minimum that is different than the state mandated minimum, then you do not currently, he currently cannot review that. So.
Okay. there's another question from the panel. I'm gonna think just a minute and really, because I'm really thick-headed. I'm trying to understand this. Chairman of the Loach. Are you on?
I am. As I understand it, what we're really talking about here is whether or not you have prior approval or whether you can file in use, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the department's authority to review those rates. It's just when they're done. Is that correct? So my next question is, if I'm required to have prior approval and I do my filing, can you tell me now what you think the normal time would be to rule on that filing?
Weston, do you want to do that?
Thank you, sir. I think it would depend on the type of filing. If it's a very simple rate change, we can expedite those much faster than if it's a complicated change to the models. Sometimes the model changes, could be hundreds of pages that are handed to the agency. So,
And that would be normal, that kind of filing is common with these minimum limits that we're reviewing?
it really just depends. If they're just changing the rate, sometimes they just change the rate, and sometimes they change a lot more than just the
I'm
rate.
just trying to
Yes,
figure
sir.
out, it seems to me what we're really talking about here is how much money does it, if you can file in use and so you're more nimble, if you have to have prior approval, I'm trying to figure out how much money that might cost an insurance carrier who's writing those coverages. That waiting time really is where we are. That's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yes, sir. And they do have filings for every other line. We're just talking about the minimums here, which, prior to 2008, it was our office had approved. We had to look at everything before anything went into effect. And then the file and use sort of compromise bill that was passed was everything but the minimums. Well, what happens is some companies don't offer the minimums at all. So essentially, every line of insurance by those companies they could put into effect immediately
It
before
also
we're allowed
seems
to
to
look
me
at it.
one of the rubs is that there's some companies that don't offer anything close to minimum limits. So maybe as a compromise somewhere in this bill, you could talk about companies that put some ceiling above which you could file in use. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
I'm finished. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Representative Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize for my tardiness. I haven't quite learned how to be in two places at one time just yet. And I apologize if you've already answered this. My question and my concern is, does the department have the staffing and the resources to evaluate what we're going to be requiring in this bill in a timely manner? And if so, what does that look like?
Well, I believe, in the law we have, there's timelines in the law, and I know depending on the filing, we turn things around faster than others. Danny Floyd's with us as well. He might be able to speak to that a little more, give a little more detail on that. Again, I believe, we are behind on some filings, on the more complicated filings. Well, if it's just a rate change, we turn those around very quickly. And our concern is on the more complicated ones, if they bypass the approval on the front end, we might catch something down the road that's then already been in effect impacting consumers.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask another question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so for the ones that you're behind on, what's the furthest you're behind on one?
And that would, Danny, I don't know if you need to come to the podium.
Excuse me. There are some that could be as far back as a year. They're the very complicated models that companies change, and we send those out to an outside examiner we have agreements with. We're in the process of adding some more examiners for that to quicken the process.
So if they're waiting for a year, when the evaluation comes back, a lot has changed in the last year. Prices have gone up and everything. So are you not concerned that if they wait for a year, when it comes back, the rate would still be adequate?
We are concerned about that. And that's why we have these outside examiners that have many actuaries to review it. And we're looking at other actuarial companies to make the process faster. And we do allow them, after it's been a long time, to adjust those figures,
Adjust them upward or downward, just
whichever way they need to.
based on the marketplace?
Mhm. Whichever they need to go, after it's been out that long.
So then, I guess my concern is, if we allow what we're asking in this bill, do we have the capacity to turn this around in a timely way? Because I was an insurance agent before filing use, with some other commissioners that will remain nameless. And you know, when the companies were not able to get the rate adjustments, and they were delayed when they finally did come through, I got a lot of angry customers. I got a lot of people calling me names that my mama didn't name me.
But ma'am, in all fairness, that had nothing to do with staffing. It had to do with politics. It had to do with personal conduct of commissioners. And I think by now, I have proven to you all in the last 3.5 years that I'm a man of my word. I've worked very closely with all these insurance. I don't want an insurance company to leave our state. But in all fairness, as I travel, as you all know, I was just involved in a little contest last November across the state of Georgia. This was the #1 issue that I got hit in every community as I travel across the state. What are you going to do about auto insurance rates? And when I told them that I had no authority to at least negotiate with companies, they couldn't believe that the insurance commissioner, I mean, that's my title, the insurance commissioner has no authority to negotiate with insurance. And I've granted rate increases. Every one of those the representatives behind me have worked very closely. They are good. We're working very closely with them to allow them to get rate increases, because we know they're taking losses. We know that we have to work and sustain the market so Georgians can have coverage. But you know, when I get a 40% rate increase, you know, this is the one issue me and my opponent and I on this last election that we agreed 100% that we needed to deal with. I mean, that tells you something, that when my Democratic opponent and myself agreed, there was no, I mean, when it came up in a debate, after that question both of us answered, I was like, okay, next issue. And so we're committed to working to maintain, to sustain this market. But I want to be able to have the authority to negotiate with companies about how they impact Georgia consumers when they have a 40% rate increase overnight. And so, yes, ma'am, I completely agree that we need to be able to staff. And if it's a simple rate increase, we can deliver that on a timely basis, because I know the speed to market is an incredible challenge. These companies behind me are competing for market share. And the speed to get those products out on to the public is key. But for example, if they have machine learning or cyber or all these other, you know, yes, I don't have the staff. I don't think any insurance commissioner's office in the nation has the staff to be able to analyze the impact on rate. Right now, I'm having to wait till that rate goes out to the market, and if I catch something wrong, I have to come back and tell that company to come back and have them adjust that. The person that suffers is the Georgia consumer, and that's what I'm trying to be able to do. I'm accountable to Georgia consumers for the rates, but all I'm asking is for the authority to have a conversation with insurance companies to lessen that impact that they have with the consumer. And I respectfully, I'll try to answer your question, but your question is, well, clearly I'm not tap dancing away from your question, because your question is very real. But that had nothing to do with staffing. That had to do with the personalities of the commissioners.
Well, Mr. Commissioner, since you brought in politics, let's talk politics.
Yep.
Because, you know, politics would artificially keep rates below what the marketplace demands, and that's what concerns me, because every insurance commissioner, if they if they're going out talking to the public, if you ask any member of the public, they'll tell you their auto rates are too high.
Absolutely.
And if you ask them what do they think is fair, they'll say it's what I paid 5 years ago.
And we know that that's not sustainable. The losses, and what balances in my book, ma'am, is the idea that companies have to be able to make a reasonable profit to operate in the state of Georgia, or else they leave. We've seen that what happens in Georgia when companies leave. Everybody's rates go through the roof. And so that's my balancing act. And I have these conversations all the time with the industry about, I've allowed rate increases to every company operating in Georgia, all of them.
So
But I've asked them to lessen the impact, especially in the middle of a financial meltdown, especially when inflation is hitting every Georgia consumer. I'm asking them to spread the pain for a longer period of time instead of hitting them with a 40% rate increase, for example.
So what we have here today then is a compromise based on your working with all of the companies. Is that the understanding?
I would say yes, but the industry would probably say that compromise is a very generous word. I'll let them speak to that. We are having ongoing conversations, and the speed to market. If it's a regular rate increase, we can deliver those and we can turn around those relatively efficient. But if the filing requires, for example, if it has machine learning, AI, if it has those components, ma'am, I have to send that out to experts.
Representative, let's
I'm
move
done,
on.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
No, it's very good questions, and I understand. Chairman Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, I just want to thank you for your leadership, Chairman Lumsden. And when we had the first discussion about this, I told you I wasn't going to work against your bill, and every one of these members of this committee will tell you that I have not approached them. This first discussion we've had, but they independently of me have voiced some very similar concerns that I had when we first sat down and talked about this. And when Mr. Weston, is it not true that when we sat down in my office and went over this, I in fact offered some sort of opportunity to put a cap of like to fix the bad actors by raising the limits moderately. Is that not true? Didn't I ask y'all that? My question, so what I'm trying to get to is, if the problem we're trying to fix is the statutory minimum policyholders, why not limit that to close to the statutory minimum by putting in a percentage or some other dollar limit cap, rather than taking it all the way up the scale to the carriers that rate very high limits as their starting offer to their consumers? Why can't we do that?
I think I'll defer to the commissioner because this is the request that came from the commissioner's office. I think this is a very important subject that we need to be having this discussion about. I'm very open to hearing all of your input, but I think the decision as to what they will or will not accept is a decision that they need to make.
Thank you.
And with them, and I'll be glad to let the commissioner or you to respond to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I think, internally the conversations we had was, by the language that we've requested here, it sort of puts everyone on a level playing field. Whatever anyone's minimums are, we just get a chance to look at them. Everything else is already file and use. We're talking about the minimums, but I asked our staff about how many people write up higher. I was told it was not very significant percentage of the market, but we'd be glad to take a look at that again. But I think our idea was, whatever everyone's minimums are, this kind of puts everyone on a level playing field. We've heard the free market argument several times, and we're obviously all pro free market as well. This is a product that is folks are required to have to be on the road, and there is sort of two different sets of rules depending on the company and the policies that they write. And so, we thought, put everyone on the same playing field. It's the most fair.
So, if you don't mind, just a follow-up question in that vein. If, in fact, as you've articulated in my office, that this was the intent is because we have statutory minimums that we require the citizens of Georgia to maintain to operate a vehicle, that was the reasoning that your office gave for the fact that we need to be extra vigilant for the people that we're making them carry minimum limits of liability. But that's what we should focus on, just that bandwidth. We should not drag other carriers that write much higher limits, because is it not true that every rating in Georgia, when you use file and use, you do have the ability to review that at any time. You've got the flexibility to do it.
But yes,
Is
sir,
that
that's
not true?
That's typically after the fact. My concern is we have about 20% of companies using this strategy. And my concern is today is that the other companies will have to use this vehicle to stay competitive. They will have to use this, or else they'll be left out. They won't be able to effectively compete. Very few, the majority of the companies in Georgia are not using this vehicle. They come to us, they show us the product, they show us the rate, we negotiate, we work, and we approve them. 20% of companies, approximately, are using this vehicle, just rolling that rate out. Then our team then has to go and examine that rate and recall that rate back and have them make adjustments. And so if we don't have a serious conversation about this, the other companies are going to be forced to because they have to be able to compete.
Not for that particular class of business.
Sir, that to me is in the area of rolling the dice, and I'm not a good fan of just rolling the dice and hoping that everybody behaves. I like the idea of everybody having the same playing field, same set of rules. And sir, our in all fairness, because the representative pointed out the conduct of the previous commissioner, I want to stand on my record. For the last 3.5 years, we have worked very closely and very productively with companies. And I'm trying to level the field where the same set of rules apply to all of them, not just the 20% of the market.
Just the final question for Weston, if you don't mind. Do we have a capacity problem in Georgia right now? How many property and casualty insurance companies are writing automobile insurance in Georgia?
I don't have that exact number. No, we do not have a capacity problem, no, sir.
And my fear is, having lived through this time period 30 years ago that we're discussing, we had a capacity problem, and it was because of the fact. Is it not true? It was because of the fact of the person in the office, not the office so the persons will change through the years, and what we're talking about is structurally granting the next person in the office enormous powers that might not handle it in the same way that our great commissioner is doing right now. That's my fear.
Yes, sir. And I would just say that this is unique to auto insurance. We have rate approval of any other line of P&C insurance, and this not an issue in any of those other markets.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is one pretty quick question. File and use over the past 50 years has taken all sorts of forms, and it just came to be that one of those forms at one time was there was a time period and you filed, and if the department didn't respond within a certain time period, you could begin using your rates. Would that possibly help with this bill to as a compromise and say if you have not disapproved it within a reasonable period of time that the carrier could begin using those rates?
I will say in recent days, as literally today and yesterday, we started having conversations with some folks in the industry about potential language that might make everyone more comfortable with the timeline and speed to market. And so we don't have pen to paper on that, but we're willing to talk and get everybody to a point. All we want to see is the opportunity to review the base rates, before they go into effect. But if speed to market is the biggest concern, then whether it's what you talked about or some other potential conversations we've had, we'd love to address that and figure out ways that we can make sure the companies get the products they need in a timely manner while we are able to protect the consumer.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, when the time is appropriate, I'd like to be recognized to make a motion so we can work on this bill a little bit further.
I want to take time to ask another question and maybe hear from some other folks, and then see if we'll entertain talking about a motion.
Play it till the time certain, whatever.
as we went through that, I got clarification on what I was trying to find out, what the problem was. So the problem is we're talking about insurance rates. And I hadn't talked to a couple people about the bill, but as far as being positive or negative against it, I have no. The problem that I would see is, as we've spoken, you've been there, you say 3.5 years, and now about ever how long elected, and we hope you're there for 8 more, but we know for 4 if good Lord's willing, and anybody could get in that job. What happens if we're talking about 20% of the insurance companies? Are we punishing? Is this maybe? Could somebody see it? I don't think you're punishing anybody, but could we see this as punishment for the whole industry, maybe just to clear up those few people, or?
I don't see it that way. What I'm trying to do is to make sure that the all players have one set of rules. I think it's, as a free market person, I think I don't like the idea of one company using a strategy that will force the rest of the companies to use it because they want to stay competitive.
Okay, I guess I don't want to. This is not an accusation against any company or the insurance department or me. I'm just, if somebody was to say that they were making too much profit by the rates they were. No, I'm just saying if they were, and that was a problem. Is it the whole industry will go? You afraid the whole industry will go that way when they see it can happen, or just like the free market system would keep those people from? I wouldn't buy insurance from them. I'd go somebody that was cheaper. So are we afraid they'll pull the whole industry higher on cost, or? I
think the free market will force the folks that not getting getting the advantage. I think the rest of the companies will be forced to use that.
Well, the advantage, are they profitable? Are they, if they're profitable at those rates? Then,
but they want more profit.
But what about the guy that has less profit that can sell insurance cheaper? Is that not?
Oh, clearly the competition. But remember that it doesn't prevent any company to rolling out a product. It just gives me the idea to take a look at the product.
Well, then how long do we say? Excuse me. How long do we say that review process might be? Or?
Typically, if it's just a regular rate increase, it's about 45 days.
Now,
if it's more complicated, I want to make sure, because obviously, the representative is very knowledgeable about and several of y'all have had some bad experiences. Sure. If it's a very complicated, complex, then I have to send that out to a contractor to review it.
What would say I had a medium complex one, and it was going to take 60 days, and I could be selling insurance during this time. What happens if that thing was found not to be good? And
what I do is I go back to the company and says, you're going to have to remove these factors and modify so you can continue, and you're going to have to issue refunds to your consumers if you use bad data.
Refund for 60 days, that could be huge.
But imagine being a consumer out there trying to figure out, you made a choice on a product, and then all of a sudden you get a 40% rate increase, because as the representative said, it could go up too. It's not just going to go down.
Okay, we I'll hold my comments till after we hear from if there's anybody else. We got some people that want to speak to the bill, and if we'll probably move on to anybody that wanted to speak from the audience for the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll be back to you there, Mr. Chairman, in just a minute. If you've signed up, Ron and Stacy.
I can speak from right here real quick.
No, come up here.
Okay. All I was going to say.
Wait till you get up here. Y'all tell me who you are and who you're with.
Ron Jackson with the American Property Casualty Insurance Association.
Hi. Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Stacy Freeman. I'm state counsel for APCIA.
Okay. What I'd like to know is if you are speaking opposed to the bill, or
well, APCI, and we represent about 50% to 60% of the property and casualty insurance market in the state of Georgia, depending upon the line of insurance. For personal private passenger auto insurance, probably about 50%. We did have concerns with the department's bill as introduced. Many of the questions that the members of the committee have raised are our concerns. We appreciate the department's willingness to continue to discuss the issues, and certainly would welcome that opportunity. But, you know, the ability to compete and speed to market are certainly an issue that our members are always going to be concerned about. Certainly understand the challenges the department faces from a staffing perspective, and that there can be a number of filings that they're charged with reviewing, but we look forward to discussing those issues further.
Just would like to add, to echo in the comments about the commissioner and his staff. I can't say enough about how they've been helpful in the past, advocates for the industry during COVID, and we've been talking to them actively and look forward to continuing that. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you, and I will agree. My problem is that I say way too much. That's the reason I'm probably about as. Never mind. I may not be a chairman of the subcommittee after today. I agree totally with the chair. I agree totally with the commissioner. His job he's doing, I can't tell you how much I brag on him. I'm I'm in the insurance business. I have a license, but I'm not active. My daughter, I want to clarify that, independent. My daughter-in-law and son are. I have full confidence in the department right now, but things change, and this gives me a little concern. I want to, the Chairman Lumsden has the authority to call this up to full committee, and he may well do that. But I would like to, for us all to think about this. The way it is right now, I see some problems with. I don't want somebody to make a mistake in their business and just all of a sudden have to pay consumers back 60 days. But my main objective is to protect the consumer. I have voted against insurance policies that would have helped my daughter and son-in-law, son and daughter-in-law. There's no difference to me. It's the same. And I'll always do what's best for the consumer, and that's all we're going to do. And it's not about what's best for insurance companies, but these people that are carriers are people too. Some of them vote in Georgia. They are the people. These people up here that are in insurance and aren't, they are the people of Georgia, and so is the commissioner. And I would like to suggest that we think about this. You guys work together and see if we can come to a compromise. This is something we have to do. We have to do anything we can to help the consumer of Georgia. We have a serious problem right now, and it's multifold. But I just want to make sure what we're doing solves the problem at hand we're trying to solve. And he tried to stop me a while ago. He knew I'd talk too much. But and we put this in motion now, but I would like to meet one more time in time to get it to a full committee and hear from you guys back and see if there's something. The 60-day thing bothers me, and I don't mean you're trying to punish people, but people that are the other 80% of the people. Maybe I'm off base, but I'm up here and y'all are out there. I don't know for how long. Chairman Loach.
Mr. Chairman, I move that any action on this bill be postponed to a time certain, that being February 15, 7 days from today.
Seven days from today. I think we can do that. I think if we can get a room, we can do that and go ahead and try to meet in the afternoon of next Wednesday. And then we could have a full committee meeting on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock if necessary. And we have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor of coming back in a week and rediscussing this, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, in discussion? Okay.
Just in case my bill has come from the chairman. So, I'm not voting against your bill, I'm voting to come back and let us get it right. Okay? Just clarity for the record. Let the record so state. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think we all are voting for the people of Georgia, and I know that. Chairman Lunsford.
Let me reiterate what I said earlier. This is a serious subject that we need to have serious conversations about. The consumers in our state are asking us to do something. I know the market. I know how it changes. I know the drivers. And this is part of the reason I agreed to carry the bills, because it's a serious topic that we need to address. And I hope within the 7 days that we can hammer something out that's acceptable to the commissioner as well as to the representatives for the various insurance companies. But I'm carrying the bill because I think it's something we seriously need to talk about and bring attention to. So with that, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I hope I didn't give the impression that I was not very serious about this, because anybody that knows me, I'm very serious, and we all have a good time, and this is very serious business, and I think next Wednesday we can make a decision if we're going to recommend it to the full committee or not, and then our chairman has the authority to hear it in committee and let the full committee hear it. And on that, appreciate all you people being here, and have a good afternoon. We're adjourned.